What's up guys, Chorus95 here and welcome to my top 10 video about my top 10 favourite video games of all time. So the first video game is a game that came out 2014 now. It's a city builder survival game. It's decently high rated, 73% on Metacritic, and that game is Banished. So Banished, as I said, it's a city builder with a bit of a twist where you have to, in city builders you have to keep your population alive, but in this one especially, you have to make sure to designate roles well. Resource management's very important. It's a bit like a Minecraft equivalent of a city builder with like the elements from Don't Starve in the survival aspect. It's actually very hard when you first start off, and I've got a picture of a cemetery. Those cemeteries in Banished fill up incredibly quickly, especially during the winter. So, on to my 9th favourite video game of all time, and I just mentioned it before. It's a game now owned by Microsoft. Used to be a little indie developer. However, now it's owned by Microsoft, and that game is Minecraft. Now I know it's the most overhyped game because of how popular it is on YouTube, but I still love it. I was one of the early buyers of Minecraft. I bought it when it was in its alpha stage. So I've been playing it for a long time. I don't play it that much recently, but and it's the creative aspect that I love. Whether you want to build a dirt house or a palace, you can do that, and I just love the creative aspect. I'm not that into the survival mode. I often end up changing to creative midway through and just building massive monuments. But yeah, Minecraft makes it on to my list at number 9. So at number 8 is a game that only came out last year. It's made by my favourite developer of all time, or my favourite publisher of all time, sorry. The developer hasn't made very few games, but all of the games they have made have been in this genre. And that genre is city building. It's the SimCity killer, Cities Skylines. So this game, coming from Paradox Interactive, who have a few more titles featuring on this list, is just, I played both SimCity and Cities Skylines, and SimCity just pales in comparison to Cities Skylines. It's the best city builder ever made, in my opinion. And I don't know what else to say. It's a city builder. It does everything a city builder should do. It doesn't have disasters, well, unless you destroy a dam that you've made and it floods your entire city. But I never used the disaster aspect very often in SimCity. Like, Banished has a disaster scenario as well, and I always turn it off because if I was like a city planner, I'd build my city in a very protected area. I wouldn't build it in a risky area. And if I did, then I'd want the disasters on, sure. But it's just not for me. Anyway, so at number 8, City Skylines. And number 7 is possibly the most overhyped game of all time. It was going to be the greatest game ever made, and it didn't turn out to be. However, it still made its way to number 7 on my list, and that's because I absolutely adore what it tried to do. At number 7 is Spore. So yeah, Spore at, I think it was E3 2004, 2005, it showed off a demo, and it looked amazing, and what they were talking about, the scale of it was unbelievable. But it didn't turn out to be that. The creature creator still amazing, but in game it's lacking a bit in most of the stages. The cell stage is very short. You can get through it in like 10 minutes. Creature stage is pretty good. I mean, when the servers were working and you had other people's designs for creatures coming in, they were a bit repetitive. Some of the designs, people weren't that. They were creative, but eventually it ended up just being similar designs every time. So I'd have liked more creativity if you could choose maybe what kinds of creatures showed up in your world. That would have been nice. Tribal stage and civilization stage, very similar and very short. You don't do much in them. They're quite boring. But space stage is what captured it for me. I love space stage. It has a lot of faults. Like, I would love a list of all the planets that I have colonized, and to be able to like tell which are having eco disasters, which ones have got full of spice that I can pick up, and most of all, which ones have like the mega turret thing, and then the biodisaster averter, all the like little gadgets you can drop onto planets to make them more efficient. I can never tell which ones have them and which ones don't, so I have to fly down to the planet, check if it has it, and then... So, it's just a lot of little finicky things like that would make a much, much better game. But it's still good enough to make it to number 7 on my list. At number 6, we have a game I've been playing on the channel. And since one of the games on my channel isn't really a game, I think you all know what this is. It is Football Manager 2016. So, this in my opinion is the best game Sega is making at the minute. The Sonic games have dropped off massively, and I think Football Manager games get better as time progresses. That's why 2016's up here. It's the kind of game where it can only really get better unless they mess up the match engine, which the match engine's not amazing. There's a lot of rebound shots, but that's always been in Football Manager. The new, is it Pro Zone, where they give you statistics, and they improved the set piece management, the tactics screen. Very nice. Very, very nice. And in terms of the draft mode, I've only played it once or twice, but it's very fun, and you get a lot of... I have like 300, 400 hours in Football Manager 2016 already. I mean, a lot of that is due to simulating forward for some of my experiment videos, but I probably have like 150 or 200 hours in just me playing through. So it's managed to make it up to number 6 on my list. At number 5, I said I had more Paradox Interactive games. And this is the newest Paradox Interactive main series game. It is following on from a game that 2 years ago, 3 years ago would have made my list. It's Europa Universalis 4. So Europa Universalis 3 is what got me into Paradox games, and I loved it to bits. I put in 200, 300 hours, and it was the first game other than Pokemon games I had done that. And then Europa Universalis 4 came out. I wasn't very impressed. My laptop couldn't run it, so I didn't really get to play it until about a year and a half ago, when I got my new computer. And it started off with no expansions. It's not the best game in the world. It would probably be closer 9, 10 on my list. But with every expansion, they've improved the game considerably. I haven't actually played the base game with all the patches, so it might be very good now. But just with all the patches, the new random world generator is brilliant. It could be improved slightly still, of course. Everything can, but it's grand strategies I adore to bits, and one of the reasons is Europa Universalis 3, and playing Europa Universalis 4 in the past 6 months to 9 months, I think I do now prefer it over Europa Universalis 3, and that's quite a shock to me. When I was compiling this list, I was planning on putting EU3 in, and then I was like, wait, I prefer EU4 at this point. I think it's just the interfaces that, even though the interface can definitely still use some work, just ask a Roomba. That's another YouTuber who does Paradox games. Check him out, he's very, very good. Yeah, the interface is a lot more intuitive than EU3, and a lot more of the dynamics of the game have been refined to make them more playable. So I think it's a good improvement on EU3, which was one of my favourite games of all time. At number 4 is, you could say, EU4's grandfather, also in the Clausewitz engine, is Paradox's second newest game. It's Crusader Kings 2. So Crusader Kings 2, it takes the grand strategy element of ruling a country and takes a different direction. You play as a specific character. You manage that character's dynasty. You play as that character until they die or are overthrown or whatever, and then you play as that character's children or their uncle who usurped them, or as their grandson who was only legitimised because your heir died. Something like that. And it's a remarkable game, the amount of detail in it. I believe there's 35,000 playable characters or something like that. All the way from 769 till the latest start date is 1337, I think. Start of the 100 Years' War. That sounds about right. And then you can play up until 1453, which is widely considered the end of the medieval period, because it's the end of the 100 Years' War and the fall of Byzantium. So, Crusader Kings 2, up there number 4, and an amazing game. Now, for anyone who's been watching the channel, they'll know I love Pokemon. I decided for this list I could only have one game from each series. And since I could only have one game from Pokemon, I had to choose my favourite. And that's incredibly hard. I love Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire because Ruby and Sapphire are one of my favourite games of all time. Particularly Sapphire because it was my first Pokemon game. I think Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire improved the story, improved the lore behind it, the fact that it's a parallel world, everything like that. X and Y I thought were brilliant as well. I wasn't really in Black and White and Black and White 2. I thought the story in them was brilliant, but I thought there was just something lacking about the games. It was kind of my drop-off period from Pokemon, where I played it through the whole way, but then I didn't really do anything outside of the main storyline, and which was a first for me, really. But I think everyone who plays Pokemon has their generation where they drop off, and then the next generation they'll come back. So that was 5th generation for me. 4th generation, however, Diamond and Pearl, great games, had quite a few flaws and little nitpicky things that I found incredibly irritating. Like the Pokétch, Pokemon Watch, you could only go one direction scrolling through it, so you could have like 40 apps or whatever on it, and you'd have to scroll through all of them to get to the right one. Pokemon Platinum, which is number 3, changed that, and they put it where there was a button going forward, button going backwards, and it was just little things like that. Also brought back the Battle Frontier, which is probably a lot of Pokemon fans' favourite thing in the main story of Pokemon games. I also had to choose a 4th generation game because they introduced Wi-Fi battling, and I adored Wi-Fi battling in 4th generation. It was when I was at my peak of Wi-Fi battling, and it was just incredible. Because Diamond and Pearl were the first games to introduce that, I wanted to put them on the list, but Platinum I just think is an improvement. I've played Platinum through 40 times, 50 times. I own 4 copies of it. So yeah, that's number 3 on my list, Pokemon Platinum. And in at number 2 is probably my favourite party game of all time, my favourite multiplayer game of all time, my favourite racing game of all time. It's Mario Kart Wii. Mario Kart Wii. So, Mario Kart 8, brilliant game. There's just something about the way the cars handle that just puts me off. I really like it. I really, really like it. The Wi-Fi connection has improved massively on Nintendo's end since Mario Kart 8 came out, as opposed to Mario Kart Wii, which was the first console edition of Mario Kart to have Wi-Fi races. And because of that, the replayability was incredible. I remember at one point I was incredibly high rated near the top of, what was it called? Sherbet Land? On the time trials on that, I got very near to the top of the world record leaderboards on that, near the start of the game. And I just adore Mario Kart Wii. It's so good. So good to play with your friends. Like, once you get good at the game, you never lose it. Like, at one point, whenever I played with my little sisters, I'd get to the point where, in a race against the hardest difficulty computers, I could lap them. And then I went back to play it when making this list, and I still had it. I was still winning against the hard computers the majority of the time, unless they'd like got 7 blue shells or spiny shells, and obliterated me with them. And that rage-inducing ability of the game, I think, makes it even better. I know some people will not like that it causes you to rage, but I just love it for that. And yeah, so Mario Kart Wii in at number 2 on my list. Actually, another thing about Mario Kart 8 before we go, the item distribution, Mario Kart 8, not very good. Mario Kart Wii, amazing. Apart from the fact that you get those stupid question mark blocks in first place all the time, and they're useless. Right. So on to the honourable mentions. So I have 5 honourable mentions, like last time. And this time, they are, in no particular order, Civilization 5. So, Civilization 5. I've played Beyond Earth. I don't like it. I don't know what it is about Beyond Earth, but I love space games. So I don't know why I don't like Beyond Earth. But it's just, it takes me too out of it, because you don't really make your own, like, species and then take over the galaxy. It's more like you have these set species, their timelines are pretty much set what they're going to do. Go out there and do that thing. Whereas with Civ 5, you take historical figures, so you've got some attachment to them, you know about them, and you change that figure's history. And I mean, I don't love it as much as the Paradox Grand Strategies. and it's just something about it. It doesn't drag me into it. It's fun to play, and it's really fun to play multiplayer as well. But there's no pull to pull me into the game enough that I want to just keep playing over and over and over again. I've probably played with about a quarter to a third of the civs in it, as well as some custom civs that I've gotten from the Steam Workshop. The Steam Workshop support's very good as well. There's a few interface issues with it, with Civilization 5. But apart from that, I think it's a very good game and it makes my honourable mentions. So does Kerbal Space Program. So Kerbal Space Program officially came out last year, 2015. And it's probably the best early access game since Minecraft. I think that's fair to say. Maybe Prison Architect as well, although I didn't really get into Prison Architect. But Kerbal Space Program is basically rocket science, but on a computer, and regular people can do it. I'm not very good at it. Despite studying physics at university, I'm not very good at it at all. I always crash. I just don't have the knowledge set up correctly to be able to judge like the yaw and the tilt and whatever it's called, the roll, stuff like that. I just suck at doing that kind of stuff. So don't get me to fly anything. But I think in a couple of years' time, Kerbal may be in my top 10 favourite games. I'm going to give it another chance this year, see if I can get better at it. Eventually, if I do get decent at it, I may bring it to the channel. And number 3 of my honourable mentions, in no particular order of course, is Portal. Perhaps the greatest puzzle game of all time. I think it's much better than Portal 2. Portal 2 was a good game, but it was nowhere near as good as Portal. I think the humour in Portal's amazing. What else is there to say about Portal? It's probably one of the most widely respected games of all time. So, yeah, that's Portal. Number 4, FTL. Faster Than Light. So, this is a game that it's similar to Banished in the fact that it's incredibly hard. You journey through a series of star systems. I suppose you journey through, it's not star systems, it's like star clusters. And at each destination, so at each star system, you get a new event, shall we say. That event can be positive, negative, neutral. You can find shops that you buy with scrap. You have to fight enemy ships. You're being chased by an armada. It's the rebels who are the bad guys, and you're like an empire of some kind, I believe. And yeah, I've beat it a few times at this point. I believe I actually went like 4 games in a row winning, which I can't believe. But yeah, Faster Than Light. Plus the Advanced Edition is free if you own the base game, and it adds a lot of content for expansion. So make sure to pick that up. Every one of these games I would recommend picking up. Obviously including my top 10. And the 5th game in my honourable mentions is Besiege. So this is not a little puzzle game. It's actually quite close to Portal in my eyes as a puzzle game, where you have to build machines that actually work to conquer a series of challenges. So it's still in early access, I believe, at this point. But the amount of creativity people can put into their designs, it's sort of like a combination of Portal and Minecraft. The creative element of Minecraft and the puzzle element of Portal. and the little soldiers that you have to fight or avoid are so cute. They're little figures. So Besiege makes it into my honourable mentions along with the others. Now my number one game of all time. It's another Nintendo game. It came out in 2010 for the Wii. It since came out for the Wii U as well as a separate release. It's got a Metacritic score of 97%. And it's a sequel. It's Super Mario Galaxy 2. So Super Mario Galaxy 1 was a great game, apart from the fact, the thing I despised about Super Mario Galaxy 1 was the fat purple Luma. His comets were so hard and then they'd like disappear. And I could just never complete the game because I could never finish those levels in quick enough time that the comets would still be there. So I never finished Super Mario Galaxy 1. Super Mario Galaxy 2 came out, and I think everything they added to Super Mario Galaxy 2 was an improvement on Super Mario Galaxy 1. I think the boss battles were better, I think the physics were better, I think just the general playability of the game was higher. And it's just such an amazing game. I don't know. I haven't played it in like 2 years, and I still remember almost every single part of the game. Just, it's so vivid in my memory because I enjoyed it so much when playing it through. And I'm going to have to play it through in my spare time after this video because I just want to play it now. So that's going to be it, guys. Leave your top 10 video games of all time in the comments down below. Drop a like on this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. I've been Corvus95, and I'll see you next time, guys. Goodbye.